Hi, everyone. It is lunchtime and we're going to do a little clean your plate. This is the first time I've ever done this, and it's really just kind of an open discussion. If you have any questions, bring them. I also, for anyone who's here today, I put in the chat my new free ebook, Your Guide to Ultimate Health. Grab it. Just click on it, open it up. If for some reason you don't get it after the meeting, I can send you a copy. But I really wanted to thought these would be great to talk about, concepts in nutrition and overall health that kind of get overlooked and people don't realize how important they are. And what I want to talk about today is something that's been coming up a lot when I'm talking to clients is really the idea of how you show up to a meal as a direct correlation to what you take from the meal. And so if you are showing up stressed, angry, frustrated, in a hurry, in a rush to a meal, your body isn't going to digest and take the nutrients away from that meal the best way that they could. And it's really simple. I'm just going to go quickly into it's just because our body is very primitive. We have the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. Pretty simple stuff. So when we have any stress in our lives, which we all do, right? We all have stress, that our body responds exactly the same way as if we were getting chased by a lion 10,000 years ago. It's really that simple. We basically have a switch. You're either stressed or you're not. So it doesn't matter if you're, stuck in traffic, you got into a fight with your spouse. It doesn't matter. If you show up to that meal stressed, your body's responding just as if you're being chased by a lion. What does that mean? That means that imagine if you were getting chased by a lion, what does your body need to do to survive? It needs the blood to go to your head, your arms, and your legs. It needs you to think fast and run away. So when you're sitting down to eat, if your body is having a stress response, it's not going to be paying attention to digesting your food. It does not care. That metaphorical lion is chasing you and it needs to take care of that first. So what happens? Your body doesn't really digest anything properly and it will just store some as fat, push it to the side. It will deal with it later when the lion's gone. So that's fine once in a while, right? But we live in a society where we have constant stress. So if you are now showing up at every meal stressed, angry, in a rush, you're actually always eating like you're being chased by a metaphorical lion. So what does that mean? Every single meal, you're not fully digesting the food. What happens then? You start gaining weight. You also start noticing food sensitivities and tolerances because your digestive system isn't working properly because it's not getting the blood flow and circulation that it needs, right? So I want you to understand how this has a really strong compound effect in our lives. And this is why it is so sneaky and why we really should make sure we're showing up to meals present and relaxed, because this compound effect is really powerful. And that's why I have so many clients showing up in their 40s and 50s. They're now, I don't understand why I'm at the situation I'm at in my life when I feel like I haven't done anything different, because they were so unconsciously showing up this way to meals. So say just one meal a day, you're stressed. Just one meal a day. You show up, you're stressed, you're a little anxious, and you don't digest that food properly, right? Your mind is somewhere else, you're busy, you're not thinking. Say that your body only doesn't digest 100 calories of that meal. It's like, okay, we were able to take care of most of it, but this 100 calories, we're going to push to the side. Push to the side, we're going to deal with it later. We're just going to kind of store it for fat. She's going to need it anyway because she's getting chased by a lion, right? It'll be perfect. So that 100 calories a day, every day, over the course of 3 years, actually translates to 33 pounds. So that's how sneaky it is. So just showing up for one meal per day, stressed out, can actually have an effect of up to gaining 33 pounds. And you'd think, okay, it's just the weight. But what also happens is when you're not digesting that food properly at that meal, you're not getting the nutrients you need, which means your body's also not producing neurotransmitters for mood behavior. So think how simple this could be of you not showing up relaxed and purposeful at your meals, could have potentially you gaining weight of up to 33 pounds, which could then mean, okay, maybe you're not going on that walk at night with your spouse. Over 3 years, that can cause a relationship issue. You used to be the highest earner in your department, right? You used to be the best salesperson. You were just go, go, go. Well, now if you're tired because your body isn't digesting nutrients, you got a little bit of extra weight going on, you're not sleeping great. Well, now you're not performing great at work either. And can you see how this kind of has this almost like butterfly effect into the rest of your life? And it's something you're not even realizing you're doing can have such a profound effect on the rest of your life and on your health. And so what I, love to talk about is just a simple step of taking 2 minutes before a meal and just doing some deep breathing, just relaxing, close the eyes if you have to bring yourself back so that you really remember why you're there, be present in the meal, and let whatever stress is going on in your life, let it go for that 20 minutes while you're eating. And the effect is really profound in your overall health. You really can't underestimate the effect of just showing up and enjoying a meal and letting your body not be stressed for a couple minutes. So that was something that was showing up for me. And I'm curious if, you guys have ever experienced that where you've noticed, I mean, I know for me, I worked in healthcare for a long time. So I am the queen of not paying attention. I'm not paying attention when I eat, and I have to eat as fast as humanly possible because I was in the middle of an 18-hour shift and I was only going to eat once. So I was curious if you guys have ever been there where you really are like, did I even eat? Or you were angry when you were eating, and next thing you know, you're a little bloated after, you're like, oh, I feel horrible after that meal. Because you showed up maybe a little stressed out or a little rushed, a little angry. Have either one of you guys ever experienced that?
Off the top of my head, no, I can't think of that. A situation like that. I'm sure it has happened. Because busy mom, you're always wondering about like, okay, at this meal, what's my next move? What do I have to do after this or whatever like that? Like right now, currently listening to you, I'm still working and eating lunch. I work from home. So
Yeah.
I've got other things in my, things that I'm dealing with also. So currently right now, this is probably one of those situations. But I can relate with that with my husband, actually. Most of the time at dinner, he's working. He's got his laptop out and he's concentrating on work. Or another situation right now, the whole thing with Ukraine. His family's from Ukraine. So we've got a lot of stress with that going on too. So yeah, I can see how that can do it. And this is very informational. I've never thought about what you've been like saying, like stress can actually affect how your body processes the food. It's very it's interesting, very interesting.
Yes. Oh, thank you. How about you, Donna?
I've been in a situation where I noticed that I'm eating out of habit, but I'm not. I'm aware that I'm stressed, and I know that I have less likely to have enough digestive enzymes. So I try to not eat that, I'll try to be aware of that, right? Because you're not hungry when you're in that state either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not even aware. And that's the thing, you're not really hungry because your body's like, I don't have time for this. Like, I don't want to do
Your body knows that it's not good to eat when you can't digest it, for sure. But you think of all the people that do stress eating, how bad that is. Or, people that are like constantly taking in information while they're eating. If you you learn about Chinese medicine, you're stealing energy from your stomach energy when you're doing that.
Yeah. And, and it's there's been so much research that one of the worst things they actually said that you could do while you're eating is to watch the news. And so like Melissa kind of brought that up with everything going on in Ukraine. They were saying the amount of stress that comes from the news, because the news, they know it's sensationalism. They very rarely tell you a happy story, right? It's always about what horrible things are going on in the world today. And they say, if you're actually eating, watching the news, your body is getting stressed and you don't even realize it. And your body is responding while you're eating, and you actually end up having people end up with more heartburn, digestive issues, you name it, if they watch the news while they eat. They were doing research on it. And it's that same exact principle, is that we don't realize how much our emotions and stress can affect how we're eating. And, so one of the best things I always tell people is shut off the TV while you're eating. Don't watch the news. And even just taking 2 minutes, which I tell everyone, and, I always think, Donna, you may have heard me say this before, but the biggest trick you can do, it's a 4-4-7 breath. This takes just 2 minutes before a meal. Nobody really knows you're doing it. And actually, you can do it anytime. You can do it in a stressful meeting. And all it does is it tricks your brain into thinking you're relaxed. So it's a really, really good trick to have up your sleeve if you have a really stressful job, if you have a really stressful life or situation going on in your life, but especially before a meal. So the 4-4-7 breath is going to be that you just inhale for a count of 4, you hold that breath for a count of 4, and you exhale for 7. So what's really important about that breath is you're exhaling for longer than you're inhaling. And you repeat that cycle for 2 minutes. That's it. And it'll maybe be 10 breath cycles, that's all. But what that does is that tells your brain that you're relaxed, because if you think about when you're stressed, you actually can't exhale that long when you're stressed. When we're stressed, that's what hyperventilation is. We're not breathing deep. right? When we're stressed. So if we're relaxed, we breathe nice and deep and we can exhale long. But when we're stressed, we don't do that. So when you are doing the 4-4-7 breath and the exhale is longer than the inhale, within 2 minutes, your brain's like, oh, she's relaxed. He's relaxed. We can eat now. We can digest. We can let that blood go back to our digestive organs, and we can let her fully be present in the meal and digest a little bit. And it's like a really quick trick. And it's really great to do. I actually used to do these in meetings all the time at my old job, is that it would get stressed out. People would be very frustrated and angry and yelling at each other. And I would just be sitting there kind of doing that breath that nobody knew I was doing, because I didn't want to be stressed out. I didn't want to have that response in my body, and I just didn't want to I didn't want to feel that way, and I didn't want to deal with it. So I would just do that breathing technique. And that is one of the quickest, easiest things that you can utilize anywhere in your life, but especially before a meal, to really help you digest better. So if you yourself, or someone that is really, they're just going through a lot, or they show up stressed at a lot of meals, like Melissa with your husband, that's something to show him, like no one would ever know he's doing it. And it would make a huge, huge change in how he's digesting food at every meal. And it's great in any area of your life. When you notice you're feeling stressed, is to implement that breath. So is there I was curious, now that I want to be, sensitive to everyone's time, because we're eating lunch, it's the middle of the day, people have things to do, but did you guys have any questions or thoughts that you want to bring to the table today? Because that was really, and also a big part of wanting to do this is, I'm curious what you guys want to know, or what you have going on about nutrition, questions, thoughts that's going on in your lives that you might be curious about.
I'll ask.
Sure.
So if you don't have enough digestive juices, enzymes to digest all of what you ate, and then you talked about the 100 calories, so it becomes fat on your body?
Most of the time it gets stored. It's going to get stored as fat, and those chemical reactions, you may not notice it's 100 calories. It's getting stored, right? Which happens if you eat
the food's absorbed, but it's not getting into cells.
And here's the kicker. It depends on the person. It depends on the stress. Some people aren't going to absorb the nutrients, and they're going to end up noticing the leaky gut. That's where people who have like IBS, you have colitis, they're actually not absorbing it. It is going right out, because that's how their body is responding to not being able to digest properly. There's other
right, and that's a stress response as well.
Exactly. Some other people will just store it as fat. Their body that's how they handle it. I'm going to store it as fat. I'm going to store it as fat, because their body's thinking she's going to need that later, because
right, because right, because if it's not a lion, it's a famine.
Exactly. Yep. And so actually they're pretty efficient. Their body's doing a really good job of like helping them out. So it thinks it's like, hey, we're just going to store this for later. We're going to keep it for later. You're going to need it. But over time, that'll add up if you're not, relaxing, using it, and that can be very problematic. And that's how a lot of people show up, where they're like, I don't know how I gained this weight. And it's like, you just weren't consciously paying attention to little things in your life, because that's what happens. It's those unconscious choices. And then they kind of show up, and they have these compound effects over time. And one of them is how you show up when you eat. So if you're not allowing your body to digest and do what it needs to do at mealtime, how can you expect your body to feel its best, to look its best, if you're not allowing it to absorb the nutrients and digest the way it needs to? But as you're right, some people, they show up and they actually will lose weight because their body just wants to get rid of it. It's where the colitis, the IBS shows up. And then they show up to me and they're like, I can't gain weight. I have such bad stomach problems. I can't eat anything. Everything bothers me when I eat. Same thing. They're showing up very stressed to meals.
Can you talk about mindful eating?
Yeah.
I guess it's also a de-stressor, but like I know a lot of people that are constantly on their phone or watching, something on the screen. And
yeah, and that also goes along with the digestion, because mindful eating is so important, because there's all your senses really need to be engaged when you're eating. Think back to 100 years, when people ate. That's actually part of the process. Part of the enjoyment of eating is smelling it, seeing it, enjoying the company around you, being fully present, fully engaged. And there's been a ton of research that when you are fully engaged, you actually eat less, because your body is now getting full. I would say the metaphorical full, right? So you're getting full on so many other things that are going on around you. People who tend to eat mindlessly actually eat more calories because they're not paying attention to what's going on in their body. They're not listening to body signals. They are looking at their phone. They're looking at what's going on with Kim Kardashian that day, or they're thinking about what's going on at work. They're answering emails a lot of times. And so they're not paying attention, and they actually tend to overeat, and they'll eat a little bit more because it takes longer for their brain to register that they're full. And so that's where mindful eating really is important too, because you want to engage all those senses. You know, you want to make sure that you're smelling the food, that you're looking at how beautiful the plate is, that you're really enjoying the area, the seating where you are, where you're sitting at, at the meal, to just be present in the moment, to be thankful for it, and to really enjoy that food that's in front of you. You'll notice you're eating less because you're getting more of the emotions that go along with it. That I always say the metaphorical fullness that goes along with it, which carries a lot more weight than people realize.
You know, what's interesting too, Erin, when we're those people that have prepared like big meals for holiday and you're cooking for a couple hours, when it's ready, you're not hungry.
Yeah, because your other senses have been going that whole time. You've been smelling it, you've been looking at it, and that's why it's like you don't really need as much. And then you sit down and you're like, oh, because you're so full from the other senses.
True.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's actually one of the reasons I actually don't mind cooking around the holidays. I end up not eating very much because I'm so full from smelling it all, especially Thanksgiving. I always think that's the one that really hits it for me. It's like by the time I've been smelling turkey since 5 a.m., I don't want to eat it by the time it's done. I'm like, I feel like I've eaten enough of it already, just smelling it.
So I have actually another question, if it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not eating and you're stressed all the time, that also leads to weight gain.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, part of it is that you're less likely to be able to digest it because that's just not what your body needs. Your body has different priorities. But can you share some other stress reduction ideas?
Yeah, it definitely affects so many ways. I mean, if you're talking now, the hormones are going to get out of whack too. If you're really stressed, your cortisol is going to increase. All of those things are going to go kind of wonky and cause you to gain weight, especially when you notice if there's weight around the belly area. That's stress. That means your cortisol is off. That means your adrenal glands are kind of working overtime to deal with a lot of your stress, hormone production. But when you're dealing with stress reduction, it's going to be, honestly, it's removing yourself from as much stress as you can. We live in a world where stress hits us from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed. And something as simple as your alarm, how you choose to wake up to your alarm, actually can cause a stress response. So if you wake up to the buzzing of an alarm, that's an immediate stress response. So at 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, the first thing your body wakes up to is a jolt out of bed. It does. So even if you can get the ones where it's like the birds chirping lightly as they, and it slowly gets louder to wake you up, or if you have curtains and maybe slowly go up to have the light get brighter in your room, that's actually one of the best ways to reduce stress, is to let your body naturally wake up instead of that jolt from an alarm. And that's something really simple that people can do that will reduce a lot of stress. Same thing, don't watch the news, especially nowadays. That's another way to reduce stress, is actually don't watch the news at all. Or if you do, there's a lot of ways you can curate your feeds to only give you the stuff that you need to know, not everything. Because that's the other problem too, is once you dive into the news, you're getting whatever they want to tell you, not just what you need to know. And, 90% of the news doesn't really affect us personally, about 10% does. So then you want to find that 10% that does and just really pay attention to that. Little tweaks like that. Also, paying attention to the people in your life, that you're in your lives, and being, and trying to realize that not everyone brings great energy, right? We have so many people that we love, but they may not be the healthiest for us to be around. And I always joke that there's like 3-minute friends, 3-hour friends, 3-day friends. And it's okay to love them all, but to be aware of the people that are maybe they're stressed out or they cause you to be stressed when you speak with them. They might be the ones you're going to want to limit the time with, right? If you have a boss that's just over the top, and they're really intense and they stress you out, that's where you're going to want to limit the interactions. And when they do leave, that's where you're going to want to breathe. You want to do those breathing techniques, but it's being mindful of the people that you allow in your life and how you feel when you're around them. That's one of the easiest ways to reduce stress too, is that so many people keep, other people in their lives that maybe aren't the healthiest for them and the best support system. And that is one of the things to really take a look at. Especially nowadays, there's so much going on in the world and people are very stressed. And so you really need to keep the people that are going to lift you up close to you. And the people who are dealing, that maybe don't lift you up and don't support you 100%, limit that interaction as much as you can. I'm not saying kick them out of your life, but limit that interaction. There's little things like that that are actually make huge differences in your overall stress levels throughout the day, because we can't get rid of everything. We can't get rid of all stress, but it's picking and choosing the areas that we can. And I'm telling you, that alarm clock is huge. That is a big game changer. If you can get a different tone to your alarm and not the buzzing to jolt you out of bed, if you can have a gradual wake up, that actually starts off your entire day differently. I hope that helps.
Yeah, very helpful.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
we basically want to have awareness and a little bit of a protective lean.
mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. Melissa, did you have a question? I want to be like mindful of time. So I know that everyone's busy with lunch.
No, I was just saying that, yeah, this is great information so far. I'm really enjoying this.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm such a big fan of like small tweaks can make big changes. There's a saying, I love little hinges swing big doors. So when you're dealing with stress, you're dealing with your overall health, it's those little changes that can make huge effects on your life, and something as simple as changing the alarm when you get up in the morning, taking 2 minutes to breathe before a meal. Down the road, it can have a huge effect on your overall health, especially, say 3 years, like we talked, say 3 years from now. If, somebody who's noticed, oh, I put on some weight or I'm not as healthy, my stress level's too high, implementing those couple little changes, they may not notice it today, but all of a sudden 3 years from now, they're feeling like a different person because now they've created these habits and their stress level has been reduced every day. They're not at this constant level of here. They've reduced their stress to where now they're at a manageable level each day by just having little changes that don't overwhelm them. And actually it supports them. Because if you do make big changes, that's also adding stress sometimes. That's not a win-win. That's not going to help anyone. So you want to do little changes that don't cause additional stress in your life that actually help reduce the stress. So is there any other questions anyone has?
Do you do these often?
This is the first one I've done, and I was curious if it went well. I would maybe like once a month just hop in, and people had questions. We can talk about whatever seems to be the topic.
I think this is great. And where would I, if I wanted someone else to watch this, would it be on your website later?
Yeah, I'm going to put it on the website later, and I'm actually going to put it on Facebook somewhere. I haven't quite decided yet, but I will definitely put it on Facebook, and I will let you know where I put that as well.
Oh, thanks. That's great.
Yes.
Good to see you.
Yes, you too. I want to thank you guys so much for showing up and taking part in this. And, I hope that we had some, helpful insights, some, had some good takeaways. And I want to let you guys go enjoy your lunch. I wanted to keep it under 30 minutes and we're going to pull it off. We got 2 minutes to spare. So again, I want to thank you guys for coming. And if you have any questions, reach out, let me know. And again, in the chat, I have a free ebook, Your Guide to Ultimate Health. Grab that. And let me know what you think of that, and have a great day, guys. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, Erin.
Bye.